ॐ दक्षिणस्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशव वामन कृष्ण पाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शङ्कर सद्गुरुः गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। So we are looking at the Manisha Panchakam, which is one of the most popular Advaita stotras of Adi Shankaracharya. And we all saw that in the last session that it started with the story where when Adi Shankaracharya as a Parivrajaka was moving about in the Dharma Kshetra or Punya Kshetra of Kashi and coming out after taking a bath in the river Ganga, saw a slum dweller or a Chandala crossing his path. And he told him, Gacha, Gacha, go away from here. And then, to his surprise, this Antyaja or this person who's a Chandala or slum dweller who looked a very, very Prakrita Purusha or an unkempt and an uncultured person, the type of question that he asked Adi Shankaracharya surprised him, and it is said that it opened his eyes. As I said, we don't know the truth of this story, but of course we have to take it, as a story. That's it, which is a kind of a prelude to whatever is going to be told in the Manisha Panchakam or Viveka Panchakam. And the first two verses, as I told you in the last session, are nothing but the expression of this Chandala. So when Adi Shankaracharya asked the Chandala to move away, he asked this question, Annamayat Annamayam Va Chaitanyat Chaitanyam. What is it that you want to move away? Is it this body that you want to move away? Or is it the Chaitanyam that is behind this body which you want to move away? If you say the body has to move away, then what is the difference between me and you as far as body is concerned? Your body and my body are both Panchabhautika, elementals. They are afflicted with Roga, Jara, Mrityu. There is absolutely no going away from that. Every one of us will have to go through these afflictions of the body. We have to go through them. And then it is Nashvara. It is all the time going to degenerate, decay, and go through all the six, changes, vikaras, and die away. And it's an upadhi and it's a mithya upadhi, that which is an experiential reality which is temporarily there for some time and then goes away. So is it this body that you want to go away? Or is it this consciousness that you are telling to go away? There are only two things that every one of us is made of. One is the Anatma body mind sense complex and the Atma, which is one without a second consciousness behind every jiva. In every jiva, what we find is this very same consciousness and nothing else. So, what is it that you want to move away? This body or this mind? Or this consciousness? And in the second verse, This Chandala even gave Adi Shankaracharya that this Atma, that is the reality of me and you, is something which is not affected by which body it enlivens. Whether it is a Chandala's body or a Vipra's body, whether it is a Deva's body, whichever body it does not matter because Atma is pure consciousness, which is Asanga, which enlivens the body mind sense complex at the same time, not afflicted or affected by the body mind sense complex. Therefore, he says in the second verse, Kim Gangambuni bimbite ambara manau Chandala vati payaha pure. Ambara manau means the jewel in the sky or the sun. When the sun shines upon the Chandala vati payapure, that is on those pools of dirty water in a slum, or when the same sunlight falls on the pure waters of Ganga, Gangambuni Bimbite, this Pratibimba in the Chandala Vatipaya Pure, that means in the pools of water, in a slum or in the river Ganga, pure river Ganga, does it make any difference to the sun or the sunlight? It does not make any difference to the sunlight. Another example he gives. If there is space, ambara means what? Space. Antaramasti kanchana ghati mrit kumbhayor va ambare. This ambara or space, this space whether it is within a golden vessel or whether it is in a mud vessel or clay vessel, does it make any difference to the space? The space inside a palace or the space inside a hut, does it make any difference to the space? It does not get affected by the upadhi. Just like the sunlight doesn't get affected by the upadhi in which it gets reflected. Upadhi means you can take it as an attribute or an incidental reflecting surface in which it gets reflected. Or the space which incidentally fills up something, a vessel or something, which is the upadhi, which is the boundary, does not get affected by the boundaries that enclose a space. So what he says is, this pratyak vastu or this atma similarly, in the third line, pratyak vastuni nistaranga sahajanandavabodhambudo. The words, it may look that it's difficult to chant this, but it's a beautiful work to chant also, and it is quite easy to understand if we break the words in the right place. And he says, this atma which is of the nature of knowingness, that is bodha, sahaja ananda bodham budho, this consciousness which is enlivening me, this body mind sense complex, enlivening your body mind sense complex and any other body mind sense complex, which is by nature nistarangaha, without any changes, without any ripples, without getting affected by what it enlivens. That which is of sahaja ananda bodha swarupaha, that by itself which is of a nature of swarupam of ananda and avabodha or bodha, knowingness, Chaitanya Swarupa Atma, which is not getting affected by anything else, whether this Atma is lighting up a Vipra's body or a Chandala's body, what is the difference? Koyam Vibheda Brahmaha. Why are you seeing this difference? What is the difference that you are seeing? Where is the difference that you are seeing? The difference is only in the name and form, the body, which is anyway mithya, which is anyway incidental. What is it that you are looking at and saying, go away? If I am of that nature of Satya, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma Atma, you are also of the same nature, Sahaja, by Swarupam. You are nothing but that Sukha, Ananda Swarupa. Satta Spurti Sukha Swarupa Atma Amasmi. You are also that. If that is the case, then what is it that you are asking to go away? This was the question asked by the Chandala, which literally opened the eyes of Shankaracharya, and he realized that this was not a common person who was seen in front, but he must be a very wise man or the very avatara of Lord Shiva. And so he says, doesn't matter what the upadhi of such a person is, if any person has this knowledge that I am that Atma which is of the nature of Satta Spurti Sukha Swarupa, of the nature of existence, easiness, consciousness, Chaitanyam, and Sukha Swarupa, Ananda Swarupa Atma. If anybody who knows this, that there is absolutely no difference, all of us, all the jivas are nothing but enlivened by one consciousness, then such a person is fit enough to be my guru. So with the third verse, the actual Manisha Panchakam starts. And we did the third verse and fourth verse, which actually are the first and the second verses of Manisha Panchakam, which we already completed. Let me give a very brief summary of what we saw in the first verse of Manisha Panchakam, where Bhagwan Shankaracharya says, from here is the work of Adi Shankaracharya. The previous two verses are the mere introduction of what this Chandala says. So what does Acharya Shankara say in this all these verses? The last line is common. He says Chandalostu Satu Dvijostu Gururityesha Manisha Mama. Doesn't matter whether this person is a Chandala or a Dvija, it does not matter. He may be the most scholarly person or the most, a slum dweller or a prakrita purusha. The one who knows this, the one who has this knowledge of who he is, what is the real nature of every being, the one who knows this is fit enough to be a guru of Vedanta. And this is my strong conviction. Yesha Manisha. This is my strong conviction and knowledge. And in the first verse, he talked about the Swarupam of that Atma. And he said, what is this consciousness or what is this Atma? Jagrat Swapna Sushuptishu Sputatara Ya Samvid Ujrumbate. It is this consciousness which is constantly shining upon the Jagrat Jiva, Jagrat Prapancha, the Swapna Jiva, Swapna Prapancha, and also the Sushupta Jiva. That means it is that one single consciousness which is all the time present in all the three avasthas which are changing. The avasthas are changing. Either I'm, I know, fully awake, transacting with the world outside, or I'm dreaming and transacting with my inner world, or I'm deeply asleep, unaware of both the external world or the internal world. But it is that one consciousness which is there in and through all the three avasthas. And it is this same consciousness, Brahmadi Pipilikantadanu Prota. It is that, like a Sutre Manigana, even like what Lord Krishna said in the 7th chapter, it is this same consciousness which is the very content of all the jivas, from the most exalted jiva of Brahma, Chaturmukha Brahma, up to the smallest of the insects. Pipilika means an ant. Ya Brahmadi Pipilikanta Tanushu Prota. That samvit, that consciousness which is inherent in and through all the millions of bodies, starting from Lord Brahma up to the smallest insect, and that consciousness which is Jagat Sakshini, that samvit, that consciousness which is the very experiencer consciousness of this entire universe. And sa saivaham nacha drishya vastu iti. And anybody who understands that that consciousness, that chaitanyam, which is in and through all the three avastas, that is in and through all the body, mind, sense complexes, is me. I am this, that consciousness. And I am not the drishya vastu. I am not the body, mind, sense complex or the jagat which is drishyam, which is experience. Iti dhrada prajna yasya asti. This dhrada prajna, this clear understanding, this samyak darshanam, this clarity of vision, whoever has, chandalostu satudvijostu, let that person be a slum dweller or let him be a Vaidika, a very, very scholarly Vaidika or a Vipra, doesn't matter. He is a guru who can give away this knowledge. Ityesha Manisha Mama. This is my strong conviction. What is necessary is what one knows, not what one is showing oneself to be. What is important is what I know what I am. I am not the body mind sense complex. I am that Atma Swarupa. The one who knows this is fit enough to be my guru and anybody's guru. Then in the next verse, which we also last time, the second verse, we saw Brahmaiva Aham, the first line. I am that Brahman. I am not the Anatma body mind sense complex. Brahmaiva Aham. Idam Jagat cha Sakalam Chinmatra Vistaritam. This entire Jagat, Ashesha Jagat, without leaving anything behind, this whole universe of names and forms is what? It is nothing but Chinmatra Vistaritam. This whole universe is a mere projection of names and forms on this Brahman, in me the Brahman, by Trigunatmika Maya. Sarvam Chaitad Avidyaya Trigunaya Ashesham Maya Kalpitam. Ashesham Jagat, Sakalam Jagat Sarvam Ashesham, without leaving anything behind, Maya Kalpitam. It is something kalpitam or projected by Maya. On me, Brahman, which is the very Adhishtanam. I am the very Adhishtanam or I am the very content of every body mind sense complex. I am the very content of this entire universe, and the whole universe is Mayeva Sakalam Jatam, Mai Sarvam Pratishtitam, Mai Sarvam Layam Yati. That Jagat which is projected onto me, sustained into me, and resolved into me, which is nothing but the work of avidya trigunatmika maya. Itham yasya dhrada matihi, the one who has got this clear idea and who abides in that Atma Swarupam Sukhatare Nitye Pare Nirmale Atmani Yasya Nishtha Asti. In that Sukhatare, in that Ananda Swarupa Atma, Nitya Swarupa Atma, Para means the absolute Atma, Nirmala, that means the one which is pure, Shuddha, Asanga Atma, Yasya Nishtha Asti. In this Atma, the one who has the Nishtha or abidance, Chandalostu Satudvijostu Gururityesha Manisha Mama. Be he a Chandala or a Dvija, such a person is the person who knows, who has the right vision, and who is capable of being a teacher of Vedanta. This is my firm conviction, Manisha Mama. The next verse talks about the journey of a mumukshu. Let's read this. शश्वन्नश्वरमेव विश्वमखिलं निश्चित्य वाचा गुरोः नित्यं ब्रह्म निरन्तरं विमृशता निर्व्याजशान्तात्मना भूतं भावि च दुष्कृतं प्रदहता संविन्मया पावके प्रारब्धाय समर्पितं स्ववपुः इत्येषा मनीषा मम. This verse, Shankaracharya Bhagavan talks about the journey of a mumukshu, the entire journey of a mumukshu. He says, sometime or the other, all of us will realize that all these lives, whatever I have done, has not really given me that permanent peace, security, and happiness which I'm looking for. I'm bound by my own actions. I'm bound by my own karma phalas. I'm doing the same things again and again and again and coming back again into the same bondage. Is there a way out of this? And I see that whatever I have stood for, whatever I'm depending upon, is constantly degenerating, constantly disintegrating, and constantly disappearing. But still, I'm holding on to it. Is there something which, when I hold on to, I'm freed from all this constantly changing and constantly degenerating universe? Out of the fear of this constantly changing universe, can I get this freedom from this fearful, binding universe? I'm all the time feeling a kind of a bondage. Can I come out of it? So, this is the journey where the mumukshu's journey starts. This is where a intelligent person gives up the Preyo Marga of Arthakama Purusharthas and tries to move towards the Shreyo Marga of Moksha Purushartha. So he says here, Shashvan Nashwarameva Vishwamakhilam Nishchitya. A person who has realized that whatever I'm holding on to now, whatever I'm seeing as reality now, is nothing but constantly degenerating. The whole universe, whatever it may be, Shashvan Nashwarameva Vishwam Akhilam. This entire Jagat is constantly degenerating, constantly slipping away from my hands. So, what is it that I want? I want to know what is it that which gives me freedom from this constant struggle of running after one thing or the other. And when I realize this, when I try to get into the moksha marga, I have to expose myself to the teachings of the Guru and Shastra. But is it so easy to get into the teachings of the Guru and Shastra and understand what Shastra is saying? I have to prepare my intellect for that. This is done through the Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga way of life. All these may not be mentioned in these three lines, but we have to, this is how it is explained. Once Shashvan Nashvarameva Vishwa Akhilam Nishchitya, then I have to prepare my intellect with Chitta Shuddhi. I have to make my intellect capable of one pointed focusing by Upasana Yoga, Chitta Naishchalyam, and then Vacha Guroho. I have to listen to the words of the Guru and Shastra. What do they talk about? They talk about Nityam Brahma. Next line, Nityam Brahma. They talk about this Nityam Brahma, which is that which is going to ultimately make me understand that I am of the nature of that permanent peace, security, and happiness. And I have to listen to the Guru and Shastra talking about Nisnityam Brahman for a consistent period of time. And I have to dwell upon it Nirantaram Vimrishata. Constantly I have to dwell upon it. Mananam I have to do. Try to free my knowledge with all the doubts by listening again and again, listening again and again. Clear my knowledge from doubts. Vimrishatam. Nirvyaja Shantatmana. This Shravanam and Mananam is possible only when I have the discipline of the mind. Shamadaman Vita Atma means Shamadaman Vita individual only capable of doing this. So when I have enough of Shama and Dama, Nirvyaja Shantatmana, that means what? I have to be prepared for this knowledge, being a sadhana chatushtaya sampanna adhikari, capable of sitting for a period of time or a consistent period of time listening to the Guru, to the Shastra, constantly dwelling upon this subject, making my knowledge completely free from all my doubts, doubt free Atma. And then I have to go into a process of nididhyasanam or constant contemplation on what Vedanta has taught me. This whole verse is on Shravana Manana Nididhyasanam for a prepared intellect. Karma Yoga first, Chitta Shuddhi. Upasana Yoga, Chitta Naischalyam. Jnana Yoga, Shravana Manana Nididhyasana, which gives me this knowledge, Aham Brahmasmi. And what happens when this knowledge happens to me? What happens when Aham Brahmasmi knowledge becomes clear and I understand this? What happens when this knowledge has been assimilated by Nididhyasana? Just Shravanam and Mananam is not enough for people like us. Maybe for very highly prepared intellects, Shravanat Yeva Jnanam, it is possible. For people, like Shankaracharya and others, just one Shravanam Tattvamasi is enough to get this knowledge. But for people like us, we have to listen again and again. We have to contemplate over it again and again. Mananam and Nididhyasanam. And once with this Nididhyasanam, this knowledge Aham Brahmasmi, separate or distinct from Anatma body, mind, sense complex. When I have clearly understood this, what does this knowledge do? Bhutam bhavicha dushkritam pradahata samvinmaya pavake. Samvinmaya pavake. This fire of knowledge, this spark of knowledge of Atma, what does it do? Bhutam bhavicha dushkritam pradahata. This knowledge of Atma, Aham Brahmasmi, Jnanagnihi bhasmasat kurute, sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute, Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita. Same thing he is saying here, Bhagwan Shankaracharya. Samvinmaya pavake. In the fire of this knowledge of the Atma, Bhutam bhavicha dushkrutam pradahatam. All my sanchita karmas, Bhutam, Agami karmas, Bhavi, they're all completely burnt away. All the sanchita karmas standing in my account are burnt away. All the agami karmas that are likely to accumulate, because I'm going to be alive even after this knowledge, they are not going to accrue any karma phala to me. We have discussed this sufficiently enough, what the karmas are, karma phalas are, and what knowledge does. All that we have already discussed in detail. Then what remains? The prarabdha karma with which this individual has been born. That prarabdha karma has to be worked out by this body mind sense complex. So he says, prarabdhaya samarpitam svavapuhu. So this jnani, what does he do? Prarabdhaya samarpitam svavapuhu. He surrenders this body mind sense complex to the prarabdha. It is not his prarabdha. He no longer says it is my prarabdha. We say it is my prarabdha. But a jnani never says it is my prarabdha. He says the body and mind, this body mind which I am not, it came with a certain prarabdha momentum. Until this momentum is gone, the body is going to go through this, work out this. Therefore, I surrender this body, mind, sense complex to the prarabdha. Let it work out its prarabdha. So, what is the jnani's attitude? He no longer takes any afflictions of the body, mind, sense complex as his afflictions. Prarabdhaya samarpitam svavapuhu ityesha manisha mama. This is my firm conviction that such a jnani will ultimately live in this world asanga rupena. He is in no way affected by anything that happens. The afflictions of the same body mind sense complex, which are incidentally associated with him, and the prarabdha of that body is not going to afflict this particular jnani. So, this whole thing, this whole verse is ultimately the journey of a mumukshu, a moksha purusharthi's journey, remembering or realizing that the karmas and the karma phalas are ashashvata, taking up to a life of karma yoga and getting chitta shuddhi, upasana yoga, chitta naishchalyam, and then exposing oneself to the shastric teaching guru mukhena, enough of shravanam, mananam, and nididhyasanam, and with Nididhyasanam abiding in this Atmasvarupa, where this fire of knowledge, the fire of this knowledge, has completely burnt out my Sanchita karmas and also the Agami karmas, and whatever remains of this body mind sense complex becomes nothing but in the hands of Prarabdha, which will take care of this body mind sense complex. This is the journey of a mumukshu to a jnani. Then, in the next verse, in the next two verses, it is almost something like the phalam of this jnana, more so in the last verse, but again, here in the fourth verse and fifth verse, again, he's going to talk about the Atma Swarupa. This entire Manisha Panchakam is about the knowledge of Atma Swarupa, knowing who I am, what is my nature, what is my Swarupa. In the next verse, in the fourth verse, what he says is, Yatityang naradevataabhirahamityantah sfuta grihyate yadbhasa hridayakshadeha vishaya bhanti svato chetanaha तां भासैपिहितार्कमण्डलनिभां स्फूर्तिं सदा भावयन् योगी निर्वृतमानसो हि गुरुरित्येषा मनीषा मम. So this is again a repetition of the idea that we saw in the first verse of Manisha Panchakam, that is Jagrit Swapna Sushuptishu. The same thing is being reiterated in a different way. He says, Ya, that means Ya Samvit, or that consciousness, Tiryang Nara Devata Bhihi Ahamityantah Sputaha Grahyate. Sputa Grihyate. Sputa Grihyate. The one who is capable of clearly understanding. A person who's clearly able to understand. He's a jnani only. It's only a jnani who can understand that I am that consciousness which is behind all the body, mind, sense complexes. And for this understanding only, we have to go through this entire spiritual journey which was talked about in the previous verses. Starting from Karma Yoga to Jnana Yoga, Nididhyasanam, and this knowledge only ultimately, where we understand, where we realize that I am that consciousness behind all the three states of this mind, Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. I am this consciousness behind all the bodies, all the jivas. This is the understanding of a jnani where he says, Ekam Advayam Atma everywhere. So in this verse also he says, Ya, that consciousness which he sees, what? Tiryang Nara Devata Bhihi Ahamityantah Sputa Grihyate. The one who sees this samvit or consciousness clearly as the same Chaitanyam, as the same Atma in an animal body, Tiryang. Tiryang means a flat body. Any jiva which grows flat in a flat direction is called as Tiryang. And that is a name used for animal. That samvit or that consciousness which is present in Tiryang, animal, Nara, in the humans, jivas, devata, in all the other devatas, any devata, exalted beings, they could be from any world, devatas. Aham iti ityantah, aham ityantah sputa grihyate. The one who clearly sees, samyak darshanam, what? I am that consciousness behind all bodies, which we saw in the first verse. Ya Brahmadi Pipili Kanta Tanushu Prota Jagat Sakshini. The second line of the first verse. The same idea is given here. Ya Tiryak Naradevata Bhihi Aham Ityantah Sputa Grihyate. Sputa. Very clearly, no doubt. There is no doubt that I am different, you are different. No, I am that Chaitanyam which is behind everybody, the one who clearly sees. And next, Yad Bhasa, when that consciousness shines, reveals itself, Hridaya Aksha Deha Vishaya Bhanti. That is the sense organs, the body, and also all the objects of the sense organs also are lighted up. And what are these sense objects? Svato achetanaha. Svato achetanaha means what? All the achetana jada vishayas are lighted up. What are the jada vishayas in the world? The entire jagat, all the names and forms this in this entire jagat, including my body, mind, sense complex. These are the jada vishayas, achetana vishayas. This consciousness, me, I light up all the bodies, minds, and sense complexes and make them Chaitanya Swarupis. I am the one who lights up all the objects in the world outside to be known by this mind and intellect. And therefore he says, Yad Bhasa, that by which whose shining, Hridaya, that means the mind, Aksha, the sense organs, Deha, this body, and Vishaya, Deha Vishaya, the objects of this body, mind, sense complex, which are Swataha Achetanas, by themselves Jadas, they also get lighted up. So, who am I? I am this consciousness which reveals itself. I shine myself and reveal everything which is Jadaha. Tam bhasaihi pihita arka mandala nibhas purtim sada bhavayan. It is this body mind sense complex because of which I am not aware that I am that Atma Swarupa. Even then, this Atma, this light of consciousness, lights up even that Anatma, which is literally covering my knowledge about myself. And what example is he giving? What we saw in Hastamalakiyam. What example? Pihita Arka Mandala Nibham. So, a cloud is covering the sun. Is the cloud really covering the sun? No. The cloud is covering my visual axis. I'm looking at. Similarly, here, though the body mind sense complex Anatma is the one because of which I'm not able to see my Pihita Arkam, one who is constantly aware of that Spurti. Spurti means what? Consciousness, Chaitanyam. The one who is constantly aware, Sada Bhavayan, who's aware of this Spurti, who's aware of this consciousness. Yogi Nirvrita Manasohi Gururityesha Manisha Mama. Such a person is a yogi. This person who can see himself as that consciousness behind all the bodies and minds and sense complexes. This person who can see that it is me, this consciousness me, that Spurti Sada Bhavayan, that this yogi or this yogi here means this jnani is constantly abiding in that Spurti Swarupa Atma Nirvrita Manasa. completely detached from whatever is happening in the Anatma Jagat. Such a person, Gururityesha Manisha Mama, such a yogi who is constantly abiding in this consciousness and who knows that it is that one, I, this consciousness, is the very content of this entire Jagat. I am the content of all the jivas. A yogi, a jnani who knows this clearly, Guru Rityesha Manisha Mama. Such a person is capable of being a guru of this knowledge, and I consider him to be my guru. Says who? Adi Shankaracharya. Ityesha Manisha Mama. This is my firm conviction. And who is now having this firm, jnanam is a Chandala who is showing this knowledge. And therefore, Shankaracharya says that he is fit enough to be my guru. So, knowledge doesn't depend upon the body, knowledge doesn't depend upon the birth, knowledge does not depend on Varna, Ashrama, nothing. Knowledge is a prepared intellect, wherever it may be, in whichever body it may be, wherever it may be born. It is a prepared intellect which has understood this knowledge. That is a jnani. It does not matter about the whereabouts and howabouts of this person. Now we come to the last verse of Manisha Panchakam, and here talks about Atma or Brahman as the Ananda Swarupa. Aham Ananda Swarupa Atma. If I am Ananda Swarupa Atma, why am I so unhappy? Most of the time I am unhappy because I do not know I am that Ananda Swarupa Atma. I try to find Ananda in the world of objects where it is not there. I look for Ananda in the body mind sense complex where it is not there. It only reflects that Ananda, my own Atma Ananda, is a small Lesha reflection of in the body mind sense complex. A small reflection on this Ananda is reflected in the objects of the world. And I think that I am going to get all that happiness and Ananda from the world of objects and run after the world of objects, and then I do not find it. So my search itself is wrong. I'm searching in the wrong direction. That is what our Vedanta says. You yourself, you the Atma, is the very source of Ananda. Atmananda, Ananda Swarupa Atma. Sukhatare, Pare, Nitye, Nirmale, we saw that in the second verse. You are that Sukhatara Atma, Ananda Swarupa Atma. Whatever you are experiencing in the world of objects, through your body mind sense complex is nothing but a small reflection. That's what is going to be talked about in the last verse. Yat saukyambhudileshaleshatah ime shakradayo nirbhritaah yacchitte nitaram prashanta kalane labdva munir nirbhritah यस्मिन्नित्यसुकाम्बुधौ गलितधीः ब्रह्मैव न ब्रह्मवेत् यः कश्चित् स सुरेन्द्रवन्दितपदो नूनं मनीषा मम यत् सौख्य अम्बुधि लेशतः. Who am I? Saukhya Ambudhihi. I am the ocean of happiness. I am the ocean of Ananda. This ocean of Ananda is me, the Atma. But then all the jivas, the body, mind, sense complexes, the jivas and the world, ime shakradayo leshataha nirvrita. All of us, whatever we are experiencing as experiential Ananda, is nothing but a fraction of that Atmananda. So, Swarupa Ananda is the ultimate, limitless, seamless. But what I am experiencing is a limited Ananda. It is an experiential Ananda. He says, Shakradayo Nirvritaha. Even the higher beings like Devas, Shakra means Indra. Devendra, Shakra. That means Indra's happiness also is nothing but a small fraction of Atmananda. There is an Upanishad called as Taittiriya Upanishad, in which there is, a part of it called as Brahmananda Valli, in which there is this Ananda Mimamsa is being talked about, where the Atmananda or the Swarupa Ananda is the highest and the Paramarthika Ananda, it says. And all the other experiential Anandas, I may have the best body mind sense complex. I may have the best capacity of things outside me to enjoy. I may have the best resources to enjoy. Even with all that, even like a body of Indra or body of Brahma, whatever Ananda is being experienced by any Jiva is nothing but a lesha. It's a fraction of that Atmananda. So yat saukya ambudihi, that ocean of Ananda, eternal, anantam, purnatva swarupa Ananda, lesha. By fraction and fraction, ime shakradayo nirvritaha. All the experiential anandas, right from Chaturmukha Brahma to the lowest of the organisms, is merely a small fraction of Atmananda. And he says, Yat chitte nitaram prashanta kalane labdva munir vartataha. This Muni, he means what? This Jnani is no longer dependent upon all these material or Vishaya Anandas. He is fully abiding in his Ananda Swarupa Atma. This is actually the phalam of Jnanam. Here, the phalam of this Jnanam also is talked about. So, who is a Muni? Who has understood that this consciousness, is the content of everything, and I am the Ananda Swarupa Atma. When he abides in this Atma, he understands that all the experiential Anandas, all the experiential happiness which is experienced by any of the living beings is a mere fraction of the Ananda. Which Ananda? Brahmananda or Atmananda or Swarupananda. It's a mere fraction. Yachitte nitaram prashantakalane labdva munihi nirvritaha. A muni or who's that? Our jnani, sthitaprajna. Sthitaprajna lakshanas, we have seen that. Atmanyeva atmanav tushtaha. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parthamanogatat atmanyeva atmana tushtaha. Atmani atmana tushtaha. Atmani eva. That means what? In the Atmananda, he is reveling. He is no longer interested in the reflected Ananda, a teeny weeny bit of reflected Ananda from outside. Yat chitte nitaram. All the time, this Jnani is abiding in the Ananda Swarupa Atma and has Prashanta Kalane Labdhva Nitaram. Okay, Chattam, his Chittam is Prashantam because he is abiding in his Sukha Swarupa, Ananda Swarupa Atma. Yasmin Nitya Sukambudau Galita Dihi Brahmaiva na Brahmavit. This person whose mind is completely resolved in this Atma Ananda is no longer a knower of Brahman, but he is Brahman himself. Yasmin, in which Nitya Sukham Budhau, in this Nitya Sukha Ananda Swarupa Atma, the one whose entire mind is Galita, Galita Dhihi, the one whose mind, the one whose intellect, the one who's abiding, resolved in this Atmananda, he is Brahmaiva na Brahmavit. He is Brahman itself. He is the Nitya Swarupa Atma. Shuddha Swarupa Atma, Ananda Swarupa Atma, Mukta Atma. So, what is the meaning of Mukti then? What is the meaning of Moksha? Abiding in my Swarupa Lakshanam, abiding in my Swarupa, Atma Swarupa. What is my Atma Swarupa? Purnatvam, Chaitanyam, Chaitanya Swarupa Atma, Purnatva Swarupa Atma. I see myself, I understand myself as the Ananda Swarupa Atma. I see myself as that Chaitanya Swarupa Atma. I'm no longer interested in the reflection of myself, Ananda, in the world outside. I see all the experiential Ananda is nothing but a reflection of myself. I see all the knowledge outside as nothing but the reflection of me, this knowledge. So I am the Satta, Spurti, Sukha, Swarupa, Atma iti. I clearly abide in this Atma. I am no longer affected by, afflicted by any of the small reflected things in the world outside. I no longer crave for this reflected Ananda, of this limited Ananda, this Nashvara Ananda, this Anitya Ananda. So, Yasmin Nitya Sukha Budhau. In this Sukha Swarupa Atma, in this ocean of Sukha Swarupa Atma, a person who is abiding in this, whose intellect is resolved in this person who is one with this Sukha Swarupa Atma is Brahman, not even a Brahmavit. You can't even call him a knower of Brahman. Then, if I am a knower of Brahman, then Brahman becomes an object. I become the knower of Brahman. Here, there is no Vikalpa anymore. There is no subject object division anymore. I am Brahman. Brahmavit Brahmaiva Bhavati. The knower of Brahman is Brahman. What is the meaning of knower of Brahman? Knowing that I am Brahman. Knowing that I am Ananda Swarupa Brahman Atma. I am the Sukha Swarupa Atma. I am the Chaitanya of the Swarupa Atma. This knowledge itself means I am Brahman. There's no question of knowing. This abiding in this knowledge, this kind of understanding, this vision, this clarity of vision is nothing but Brahman. I am Brahman. I am not a Brahmavid. Such a person is Brahman, not a Brahmavid. Yaha kaschit, such a person, if at all, wherever he is, whoever it is, Saha Surendra Vandita Padaha. Even gods will prostrate before him. Surendra Vandita. Even Indra, Surendra, Devas, everybody will, respect him, prostrate before him. What is the meaning of that? This Brahman, it may be a human being, Jiva, but the one who is abiding in his Atma Swarupa, Brahma Swarupa, Brahma Chaitanya, such a person is revered, worshipped even by the Devas. Yaha kaschit, whoever such a person may be, Saha, such a person, Surendra Vandita Padaha. Such a person is worshipped even by the exalted beings and gods. Noonam Manisha Mama. Definitely, this is my conviction, this is my knowledge, this is my Dhrida Prajna, this is what I have understood. Therefore, this person who appeared in front of me as a Chandala, it doesn't matter whether this person has the body of Chandala, but then what he knows is more important. And then, of course, the story goes that once Adi Shankaracharya Bhagavan realized this, and then he composed this Manisha Panchakam. The story goes that this Chandala revealed himself as nothing but Bhagwan Shiva. That also is talked about. So this is, though it may seem a little difficult Advaita Stotra, but then definitely this stotra is talking about all the the saram of all that we have studied about Atma Swarupam. Who am I? I am Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa Atma, and this knowledge is something which is possible for anybody if one is prepared for it. This is the ultimate message of Manisha Panchakam. ॐ नन्दन्तु साधका सर्वे विनश्यन्तु विदूषकाः अवस्थाशाम्भवी मेस्तु प्रसन्नोऽस्तु गुरुः सदा सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ तत्सत्